So now we have Kel Lash with us, and so grateful to have you here on ACIM Gather for A Course in Miracles. Turning this mic over to you, Kel Lash. This mic is all yours.
Thank you, Lynn. Hello, everyone. Happy to be here again to share the good news. Let's see. So today I opened to the course, chapter 13, The Guiltless World, and it's section 5, The Two Emotions. So I'm going to read from there. I have said you have but two emotions, love and fear. One is changeless, but continually exchanged, being offered by the eternal to the eternal. In this exchange, it is extended, for it increases as it is given. The other has many forms, for the content of individual illusions differs greatly. Yet they have one thing in common. They are all insane. They are made of sights that are not seen and sounds that are not heard. They make up a private world that cannot be shared, for they are meaningful only to their maker, and so they have no meaning at all. In this world, their maker moves alone, for only he perceives them. I love when Jesus talks about us being insane and our ego thoughts being insane. It's such a different take on the definition of insanity, especially in my world, because I'm in the mental health world. As not only am I a spiritual coach and life coach, but I'm trained as a mental health therapist. So it's just such a different take on being insane. So I just love that, redefining that word, insanity. All right, so there's only two emotions, love and fear. Let's hear more about this. Each one peoples his world with figures from his individual past. And it is because of this that private worlds do differ. Yet the figures that he sees were never real, for they are made up only of his reactions to his brothers and do not include their reactions to him. Therefore, he does not see he made them, and that they are not whole. For these figures have no witnesses, being perceived in one separate mind only. So here he's talking about the separation we experience, and that's when we're split. It is through these strange and shadowy figures that the insane relate to their insane world, for they see only those who remind them of these images, and it is to them that they relate. Thus do they communicate with those who are not there, and it is they who answer them. And no one hears their answers save him who called upon them, and he alone believes they answered him. Projection makes perception, and you cannot see beyond it. Again and again have you attacked your brother because you saw in him a shadow figure in your private world. And thus it is you must attack yourself first, for what you attack is not in others. Its only reality is in your own mind, and by attacking others, you are literally attacking what is not there. This is good. And thus it is you must attack yourself first, for what you attack is not in others. Its only reality is in your own mind, and by attacking others, you are literally attacking what is not there. This is so good. So he's talking about, thus do they communicate with those who are not there, and it is they who answer them. So the insanity is literally us communicating with those who are not there, with thoughts that are not there. So the thoughts that come in from the ego are actually not real thoughts, but we interact with them as if they are not there. And then we have fear from them. And fear is the underlying emotion of all of the other unpleasant emotions that we experience. So that's the insanity right there. So really, it's like if you think of, if somebody, traditionally refers to someone as being insane, they're talking about probably someone who has some sort of psychosis or schizophrenia. So they're having some sort of delusions, and seeing or hearing things or feeling things that are not there. And what he's saying is that that's actually going on with all of us when we are thinking with our ego. We're responding to something that's not there, the ego, saying things that aren't actually real. So we interact as if they're there and that they are real. So we're attacking others. When we are attacking others, he goes on to explain that we are attacking what is not there, and we are attacking ourselves. So the delusional can be very destructive, for they do not recognize they have condemned themselves. They do not wish to die, yet they will not let condemnation go. And so they separate into their private worlds where everything is disordered and where what is within appears to be without. Yet what is within they do not see, for the reality of their brothers they cannot recognize. This is a great point too he's making about, yet what is within they do not see, for the reality of their brothers they cannot recognize. So when people are in fear, they often do not actually see what's going on inside them. They don't even necessarily see it as fear or recognize it as fear. They don't see it as attack on others or themselves. They don't see it as condemnation at all. They just see it as that's their belief or that's their opinion. Or not even, they will see it as that's real, that's true. This makes me think of, so this delusional thinking, one of the extreme forms of it is like xenophobia of any kind. So, racism, transphobia, homophobia, any belief that you're better than someone else, any belief that somebody else that has some sort of different lifestyle or choice or thinking than you is bad or a sinner. I remember years and years ago, before I started reading the course, I used to, like when I was starting to study to be a mental health therapist, I started perceiving people who were homophobic and transphobic as psychotic, like as delusional. And I remember that being really, really helpful for me to have more compassion for them, because I was able to see their thinking as so misconstrued, that it was literally delusional, like to think that somebody is a sinner for loving someone or for being a gender that is not matched with their physical genetic makeup is like a sin or bad. It is very delusional, right? So that helped me have compassion, because really underneath that is fear. You know, if somebody is racist or a white supremacist, you know, they think that their race is better and that other races are less than. That's delusional thinking, which just comes out of fear. So they don't see it as that, though. They see it as, well, that this is just true. You know, this isn't something that makes sense to me. It's something gross. It's something wrong, whatever they're thinking. You know, their attacks, they don't recognize as being out of fear. Like the you know, other people perceive it as hate or perceive it as violence or oppression and all these things. But underneath hate and violence and oppression is fear. So fear is underneath it all, and fear is not love. And love is the real emotion, and fear is the illusion-based emotion, the emotion that we experience when we are perceiving the illusion. So what I was just talking about and reflecting on all the lessons in the course about wanting to see. So like, I want to see, I'm determined to see. Above all else, I want to see. Nothing in this room is real. This world holds nothing that I want. So this whole idea that this illusion is what is causing our perception. And so our perception is going to be fear if it's based on the illusion. So this is everything that, you know, that's the first lesson in the workbook of the course. So this is like foundational to understand and to be looking at throughout the day, constantly, you know, working to remember that, you know, nothing here is real. Okay. So you have but two emotions, yet in your private world, you react to each of them as though it were the other. For love cannot abide in a world apart, where when it comes, it is not recognized. If you see your own hatred as your brother, you are not seeing him. Everyone draws nigh unto what he loves and recoils from what he fears. And you react with fear to love and draw away from it. Yet fear attracts you. And believing it is love, you call it to yourself. Your private world is filled with figures of fear you have invited into it. And all the love your brothers offer you, you do not see. So we get so delusional that we actually believe that the fear is love. So somehow, I mean, that's really extreme if we're believing that fear is love. So, you know, he's talking about our private world. That's this idea we have no private thoughts. So if we're having private thoughts, that's us misconstruing the illusion. That's us perceiving the illusion and deciding something just based on that. So those are private thoughts. Those are not part of the one love, the oneness, the unity, the unified mind, because they're split off from the love. So they're private and they're not, they don't make sense. They're not real. As you look with open eyes upon your world, it must occur to you that you have withdrawn into insanity. You see what is not there, and you hear what makes no sound. Your manifestations of emotions are the opposite of what the emotions are. You communicate with no one. Excuse me. You communicate with no one, and you are as isolated from reality as if you were alone in all the universe. In your madness, you overlook reality completely, and you see only your own split mind everywhere you look. God calls you, and you do not hear, for you are preoccupied with your own voice. and the vision of Christ is not in your sight, for you look upon yourself alone. This is really good, because what I was recalling when reading this part, read this part again here. You communicate with no one and you are isolated from reality as if you were alone in all the universe. In your madness, you overlook reality completely and you see only your own split mind everywhere you look. God calls you and you do not hear, for you are preoccupied with your own voice. And the vision of Christ is not in your sight, for you look upon yourself alone. So this is the specialness that we get caught up in. And we're so preoccupied with the fear that we believe we're alone, that we're separate, and we can only hear our own mad split voice, based on the split mind and based on what we're perceiving in the illusion. So this reminded me of, so if we're in that state, we're a victim to the entire world. So this is like, no joke. This is, do I choose to be a victim of the entire world that I see and experience, or can I, master that? Can I not let that meaning take hold of me and who I am and what I believe? And so this is like really important to look at. If I'm feeling like a victim to my world, to something, to someone, what is that about? So I lived in this place for many years. Up until about 5 years ago, I was a victim to my own body. I was chronically ill, and that was my whole identity. I believed that other people, the whole world, a partner had to take care of me, that doctors had the answers for me, that I needed a partner to care for me, to love me. There's that codependence that I experienced in relationships. And I was very sick, like not just physically, but in my mind. So I was like, I'd become a victim to the world that I see. And so this is what he's talking about here. So I smiled when I was reading this, because I remembered that, because I've just been thinking about how I got out of that. I got out of that by being willing to look at the emotions I was experiencing and what was the belief under those emotions that actually caused those emotions. Emotions aren't caused by things that happen. The emotions are there because we interpret the things that happen as bad, and then we have emotions based on our interpretation. So we have to be willing to identify what those emotions are and identify what that meaning we made was. That's the belief we have that determines the emotions. And any belief that's operating, any belief that I have about myself or about the world that makes me feel bad in some way, that makes me feel an unpleasant emotion, is actually just false, is a lie. This is what he's talking about here. And any emotion or any belief that makes me feel good about myself in the world is true. So, because that's out of love. So that's just the truth, plain and simple. No exceptions to that. So we really have to radically be willing to look at when we are in the place of delusional thinking, a place of fear, no matter what the emotion is, even if it doesn't feel like fear. It might, be anger. It might be grief. That doesn't really feel like fear to us. But though that's all one and the same. And also, it might not even feel like an emotion. It might not feel like anxiety or fear. It might just feel like body sensation. Like we might be feeling, like butterflies or pain in our body or nausea or something like that. We don't necessarily feel fear or even feel worried, but our body is holding it. So the sensations in our body are also very, very important clues to how we are feeling and the meaning we are making, the belief that we have about something. Okay. Little child, would you offer this to your father? For if you offer it to yourself, you are offering it to him, and he will not return it. For it is unworthy of you, because it is unworthy of him. He would release you from it and set you free. His sane answer tells you what you have offered yourself is not true, but his offering to you has never changed. You who know not what you do can learn what insanity is and look beyond it. It is given you to learn how to deny insanity and come forth from your private world in peace. You will see all that you denied in your brothers because you denied it in yourself. For you will love them, and by drawing nigh unto them, you will draw them to yourself, perceiving them as witnesses to the reality you share with God. I am with them as I am with you, and we will draw them from their private worlds, for as we are united, so would we unite with them. The Father welcomes all of us in gladness, and gladness is what we should offer him. For every son of God is given you to whom God gave himself, and it is God who you must offer them to recognize his gift to you. So here's the solution. That's wonderful. So we can offer any of this to him, any of these beliefs, any of these emotions, any of this fear to him. And he will not give them back to us. So this is what he offers us all the time. He's taking it to us, taking it from us. But the thing is if we're not willing to give it, if we're not willing to give this stuff over to the Holy Spirit, we're still going to experience having it. It doesn't mean we actually have the fear or, it doesn't mean it's real, but it's going to continue to be experienced as real because we really weren't ready to fully give it to God. So what does it take for you to be willing to fully give it to God? What does that take? This is a question that I asked myself. This is a question that I'm going to ask myself today, actually, some more, because I have fears just like everybody else. I have the human condition here, and somehow I believe that those fears are justified and I have beliefs that I still am actually believing are real on some level that are causing those fears. So, what does it take for us to be really willing to actually give those over to spirit. Yeah. Vision depends on light. You cannot see in darkness, yet in darkness, in the private world of sleep, you see in dreams, although your eyes are closed. And it is here that what you see you made. But let the darkness go, and all you made, you will no longer see. For sight of it depends upon denying vision. Yet from denying vision, it does not follow you cannot see. Yet from denying vision, it does not follow you cannot see. But this is what denial does, for by it you accept insanity, believing you can make a private world and rule your own perception. Yet for this, light must be excluded. Dreams disappear when light has come and you can see. So I like the metaphor here of the illusion we're in being like when we're dreaming, or when we're dreaming, our eyes are closed, and then we dream these dreams that sometimes are good, sometimes aren't good, sometimes are just weird or bizarre. But those are not our reality, in the sense they're not the world we live in here on Earth. They're separate from that. They're not real. That's why they're dreams, and our subconscious makes them up when we sleep. So essentially saying that's like the same thing as our private world that our ego has created with our thoughts. That's like basically that might as well be the dream world. We might as well be literally asleep, because we are asleep if we're in ego. So, yeah. So the vision is us waking up to love. Do not seek vision through your eyes, for you made your way of seeing that you might see in darkness. And in this you are deceived. Beyond this darkness, and yet still within you, is the vision of Christ, who looks on all in light. Your vision comes from fear as his from love, and he sees for you as your witness to the real world. He is the only Holy Spirit's manifestation, looking always on the real world and calling forth its witnesses and drawing them to you. He loves what he sees within you, and he would extend it. And he will not return unto the Father until he has extended your perception even unto him. And their perception is no more, for he has returned you to the Father with him. So do not seek vision through your eyes, for you made your way of seeing that you might see in darkness, and in this you are deceived. So when we walk around in the world, we are seeing through our eyes. And what he is saying is, do not seek vision through your eyes, because our eyes are what does us wrong. Our eyes are what we use to perceive what's going on. So it's really not about our eyes, our eyes themselves, but even if we were blind, we would still be perceiving the illusion just as easily. So, but we take it in and we see things, and then we interpret things based on what we see. So it's about the interpretation that comes through our vision. You have but two emotions, and one you made, and one was given you. Each is a way of seeing, and different worlds arise from their different sights. See through the vision that is given you, for through Christ's vision he beholds himself. And seeing what he is, he knows his Father. Beyond your darkest dreams, he sees God's guiltless Son within you, shining in perfect radiance that is undimmed by your dreams. And this you will see as you look with him, for his vision is his gift of love to you. given him of the Father for you. So would you like to look out the window while sitting next to God, or sitting alone? So if those are my only two options, I'm going to choose sitting there next to God and seeing what he sees. But for some reason, we all often choose to look out that window alone, and we push God away out into the other room and separate ourselves because we want to decide that something else is going on for some reason. We want to be right about that, and we are willing to suffer in order to be right about it. So, would you rather be right, or would you rather be happy? The Holy Spirit is the light in which Christ stands revealed, and all who would behold him can see him, for they have asked for light. Nor will they see him alone, for he is no more alone than they are. Because they saw the Son, they have risen in him to the Father. And all this will they understand, because they looked within and saw beyond the darkness the Christ in them, and recognized him. In the sanity of his vision, they looked upon themselves with love, seeing themselves as the Holy Spirit sees them. And with this vision of the truth in them came all the beauty of the world to shine upon them. And that is just so beautiful. I have to read it again. And all this will they understand, because they looked within and saw beyond the darkness the Christ in them, and recognized him. In the sanity of his vision, they looked upon themselves with love, seeing themselves as the Holy Spirit sees them. And with this vision of the truth in them came all the beauty of the world to shine upon them. The Holy Spirit is the light in which Christ stands revealed. So, it's really not about just looking within and seeing the Christ within. It's about, because we could see the Christ within and we could just stop there. We could notice it and be like, okay, I have the Christ within. But it's about like really recognizing him as, oh, the Christ is me. That's me. And then that allows me to embody the Christ within me. So I'm not just noticing that I have the Christ in me, that I am completely loving and completely innocent and guiltless. It is that I now recognize that so deeply as myself that I actually begin to embody it and live it. And I then walk out the door and make choices, and I make actions, and I show up in my relationships, and I show up in the world as the Christ mind, because I have embodied that within me. I don't just know that that's me. I know it so deeply that I embody it. It's like a really deep knowing of truth. So I really like that paragraph. Okay, so that's the end of section 5. All right, that was chapter 13, The Guiltless World, section 5, The Two Emotions. That's a good section. Now, the next section is section 6, Finding the Present. So I'll go on and read that. To perceive truly is to be aware of all reality through the awareness of your own. But for this, no illusions can rise to meet your sight, for reality leaves no room for any error. This means that you perceive a brother only as you see him now. His past has no reality in the present, so you cannot see it. Your past reactions to him are also not there, and if it is to them that you react, you see but an image of him that you made and cherish instead of him. In your questioning of illusions, ask yourself if it is really sane to perceive what was as now. If you remember the past as you look upon your brother, you will be unable to perceive the reality that is now. So, wow, isn't that so powerful? If you remember the past as you look upon your brother, you will be unable to perceive the reality that is now. So, in other words, if you forget the past as you look upon your brother, you will be able to perceive the reality that is now, which is your brother is innocent and perfect, and you will be able to love him as yourself. So anytime we're in the past, we are holding a grievance. And every time that we are really truly in the present moment, we are at peace, we are happy. And it is really that simple. You consider it natural to use your past experience as the reference point from which to judge the present. Yes. Yet this is unnatural because it is delusional. When you have learned to look on everyone with no reference at all to the past, either his or yours as you perceived it, you will be able to learn from what you see now. For the past can cast no shadow to darken the present unless you are afraid of light. And only if you are, would you choose to bring darkness with you. And by holding it in your mind, see it as a dark cloud that shrouds your brothers and conceals their reality from your sight. So let's unpack that. So for the past can cast no shadow to darken the present unless you are afraid of light. So we just talked about the two emotions, fear and love. Now, fear, we believe that we have fear. We just talked about how we believe we have fear of all these different things because it's based on some belief and some experience we had in the past. Now, so we believe that we have fear about something specific, someone, yet what we're really afraid of is the light, is what is being said here. So that makes me recall this idea that we are never upset for the reason we think. So if we are afraid of light, that's when we have the fear. We're actually afraid of light, which means we're afraid of God. So that means we are afraid of God. If we are in fear, we have some sort of belief, probably unconscious, not always, but often unconsciously, we are afraid of God. So we are afraid of God. Why? Because we might believe that he's going to punish us, that we're sinners, that we're bad. We're afraid of the light. Okay, so this darkness is in you. The Christ as revealed to you now has no past, for he is changeless, and in his changelessness lies your release. For if he is as he was created, there is no guilt in him. No cloud of guilt has risen to obscure him, and he stands revealed in everyone you meet because you see him through himself. To be born again is to let the past go and look without condemnation upon the present. The cloud that obscures God's Son to you is the past. And if you would have it past and gone, you must not see it now. If you see it now in your illusions, it is not gone from you, although it is not there. I like this part. To be born again is to let the past go and look without condemnation upon the present. So I like this idea of being born again, meaning letting the past go. So if we think about being born again, like, okay, so if when a baby is born, that baby comes into the world at the minute that they are born. And so they come into the world as this fresh, perfect, innocent new soul, even if they're an old soul, they don't come into the world with past memories, conscious past memories of their past lives or parallel lives or anything that's happened to them. They're just they're born for the first time on this earth in like the literal sense. I don't know how to getting caught up in the words here, but you get the idea. So every time we let the past go, I like thinking about it as being born again, because if we really let the past go in any moment that we let that past go, it is as if we are being born again, isn't it? Because we get to start fresh with no opinions, judgments, fears about the past. So we're just like newborn babies, curiously exploring the world with their innocent, fresh eyes every time. So I like that idea of being born again. Time can release as well as imprison, depending on whose interpretation of it you use. Past, present, and future are not continuous unless you force continuity on them. You can perceive them as continuous and make them so for you. But do not be deceived and then believe that this is how it is. For to believe reality is what you would have it be according to your use for it is delusional. You would destroy time's continuity by breaking it into past, present, and future for your own purposes. You would anticipate the future on the basis of your past experience and plan for it accordingly. Yet by doing so, you are aligning past and future and not allowing the miracle which could intervene between them to free you to be born again. This is beautiful. So, what did I like here? You would destroy, no, before this. For to believe reality is what you would have it be according to your use for it is delusional. So like I could barely get through that sentence when I was reading it. Like I couldn't allow it to flow because it gets so convoluted. So to believe reality is what you would have it be according to your use for it is delusional. So like we believe reality is what we'd have it be according what we want to use it for. So essentially I'm saying this thing happened and I want to use this for the meaning that this is all bad and I'm going to be really depressed because this happened. So we made a use for that experience. The use is that that's useful in validating my desire to be depressed. So that's a really, with that example, when I was depressed many years ago, I had a really hard time shifting that because I would listen to this idea. I would listen to Course in Miracles podcast with Jennifer Hadley at the time. And I remember this one I was listening to on depression and how we are the creators of our own thoughts and emotions. And so we are the only ones making us depressed. And I'm not depressed because of what happened and XYZ. And I remember like obsessively listening to this podcast like over and over. Yet like in my ego mind, I'm like, this is crazy. Like, this is so dumb. Like this can't be true. And I was like, resistant to it because I was feeling so depressed and so hurt. I was in so much pain, and that pain was so real in the way that it felt and was experienced in my heart, in my mind, in my body. So it's like some part of me was hooking into the truth of it and was like obsessively listening to this idea over and over. Yet the rest of me, the ego part, the split part, was like, that is it's like delusional. Believe that was delusional. So yeah, I was able to flip it around. Because the thing is what I was continuing to believe, that I should be depressed, that maybe I deserve to be depressed, I deserve to be chronically ill. Like at some point you have to be like, well, is that really serving me to believe that? Like the only outcome of this is that I continue to feel depressed. So like, how could I not feel depressed if I keep that story playing? So it's impossible. You can't. You're going to feel depressed. So like at some point I had to be like, well, is this really working for me? Like, how is that working for you, Kel? Obviously not good, because I'm sitting here being depressed. I'm suicidal at times. I'm heartbroken. Like I can't take care of myself. Like this is obviously not a pleasant way to live, because I'm not happy and I'm not at peace. So I really had to be willing to start believing in that truth. And it starts, for many of us, this has to start as being willing to believe it as like a belief. So in other words, like we don't believe that it's actually truth. So we have to be willing to believe that maybe it's true, as if it's like a belief that we want to shift to. So we have to be like, well, maybe there might be a belief that I can be happy, that I deserve to be happy, that I deserve to be loved. We might not like be able to latch on to this idea that like that might be the total truth. But if we can think about it as, well, if we're willing to believe that that might be a belief I could have. And it sounds weird. But when I work with it that way with clients, it's more helpful because they're so stuck in the depression, the anxiety, the trauma. They're so stuck in the story that their belief they're holding has become true in their mind. So they can't just be like, okay, this other thing is true, I'm going to try to get there. Like they have to look at it as a belief. So that was really helpful for me at that point. I don't think about it like that anymore. And when I make the shifts now, I don't need to like entertain it as a new belief, because I know it's not a new belief. I know that it's the truth. But we really don't know it's the truth, because if we fully knew it was the truth, we wouldn't go back and forth from believing it and not believing it, having fear, having anxiety, being upset. Like none of those things would be happening if we actually really believed it was the truth. So do I know it's the truth? Yes. Do I really know it's the truth? No. So okay. I liked this part of that paragraph too. It says, yet by doing so, you are aligning past and future and not allowing the miracle which could intervene between them to free you to be born again. So by latching onto the past and making meaning of that, we're taking past and future and we're fusing them together. And then we're not free to be born again, because the miracle, the shift to love, the expression of love, is what happens in the present. The miracle can only happen in the present moment. So if we're attaching past with future and we're thinking about past determining then our future, that we're going to continue to feel this certain way because of the past, we've fused that together and there's no room for the miracle to be experienced. The only way we can experience a miracle ever is by being open to it, by allowing it to be experienced. It's always there, but we have to be willing. We have to want it. We have to allow it. Okay. The miracle enables you to see your brother without his past and so perceive him as born again. His errors are all past, and by perceiving him without them, you are releasing him. And since his past is yours, you share in this release. Let no dark cloud out of your past obscure him from you, for truth lies only in the present, and you will find it if you seek it there. You have looked for it when it is not, and therefore have not found it. Learn then to seek it where it is, and it will draw on eyes that see. Your past was made in anger, and if you use it to attack the present, you will not see the freedom that the present holds. So this is everything here. The miracle enables you to see your brother without his past, and so perceive him as born again. His errors are all past, and by perceiving him without them, you are releasing him. And since his past is yours, you share in this release. So everything that your brother did that you think is terrible, well, guess what? You've done those things too. We are all one, and therefore those choices he made are choices that you made. That's just the truth. So that's a level of truth that many are not willing to look at, not willing to know or believe. But, you know, if we can work with that and really see our brother's actions as actions in ourselves, there's huge healing, huge forgiveness there. Because so every time somebody does something, or every time every time someone does something that we think hurts us, or that we think is wrong, that we're judging, that every time that happens, that is an opportunity to look at, where do I hold that judgment? Where have I done that to someone? And in our lifetime that we remember, it may not look the same, you know, it may not look like, okay, that guy murdered someone. Like, okay, I haven't murdered anyone. Although, like, I've killed some ants, some bees in my lifetime, you know. So, you know, maybe I have, I don't know. That maybe that's an example of how we can connect to how have I murdered someone? And it could be very theoretical too. So like, if I'm like, you know, really angry about somebody murdering someone, where have I murdered someone, so to speak? Like, have I murdered my own love for myself? Have I murdered my own love for someone in the past? Like, have I murdered something precious to me, something good, like as a in theory, not like literally murdering a body, a living creature. So, it can be not a literal or obvious connection of where that's showing up in yourself, but it's always there. It's always there because we are one. And that's where the really, really deep work can be done if we're looking at that. So I invite everyone to look at that today. And I will be doing it as well and continue to be doing it. And it's a really hard work to do it. So we just want to extend love to everyone who's doing this work in whatever way that you're able to do it, whatever way you're able to connect these pieces, which in whatever way you're able to ever shift from any sort of fear to love. That's hard work. And keep doing it and keep it up, because at certain levels, at certain points of this work, you cannot possibly go back. You really can't. This is how I've experienced my healing, my forgiveness work, is that when I get to a certain level, I just can't have those experiences that I used to have, because my vision has changed. It's like my DNA has actually changed, so that I become more and more resilient to what's happening around me, what's happening in the world, to these painful expressions, these painful calls for love that people demonstrate. They become more tolerable and less triggering, because I'm doing that work of looking at it and seeing where that is in myself, and really unpacking that and being gentle with myself and loving with myself and patient with myself in that process. Because it doesn't feel good when you're first looking at that and saying, where is that in myself? Oh my God, like I thought of that myself that way. I attacked myself in that way. I shamed myself in that way, whatever it is. It doesn't always feel good. So, but the other side of it feels good, and it continues to feel better, and we can't go back there. So bon voyage, everyone, on the journey. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kel Lash. I so appreciate your being here with us, and I love your sharing. So we will look for you next week.
Thank you, Lynn.
All right, now I'll send you this recording.
Thanks.
Bye. Love you.
Bye. Love you.